Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first IGEL Community Technical Webinar. This is the first of many webinars we'll be doing with the IGEL community, where not only do we bring on the amazing partners IGEL has, such as our guest for today, deviceTRUST, but we're also going to be working with the IGEL's product management team and our SEs to share with you technical deep dives. Maybe, for example, how to install the products, how to troubleshoot the technologies, and so much more. Really, the sky is the limit. And I thank you so much for joining. So stay tuned as there's so much more to come. That being said, if you're not already an IGEL community member, then please join. This is just one of many great resources you will find within the IGEL community. We're sharing the latest IGEL product announcements, of course, upcoming technical events such as this one. If there's a new white paper, we'll let you know about it. If there's a new support article out, we'll let you know about it. And we're also about to release GitHub integration as a place for the community members to download and share their scripts, profile examples, etc., etc. And last but not least, at the end of last year, we released the IGEL Community Slack channel, where just in a few months, we've received over 4,000 different messages float back and forth, but they're all perfectly organized. The group is broken down into channels based on the different IGEL technologies. So for example, if you have a question or a comment or you want to share something about the IGEL OS, you can head on into the IGEL OS channel and you'll find like-minded folks that are doing just the same thing. It's really amazing, and I can't believe the success and the feedback we've been receiving about the IGEL Community Slack channel. So how do I join? Real simple. There's 3 different places you can find us. Head on over to our Twitter account at IGEL Community. Real simple. Within there, you'll find links to the different things I'm about to tell you about. The first, our LinkedIn group, IGELcommunity.com, will actually redirect you to a LinkedIn group. Within the LinkedIn group, you'll find just basic messaging. Hey, there's a new webinar with deviceTRUST today. Join it, right? Here's a new white paper. Download it. And of course, you're going to find links to our Slack channel because Slack is sort of interesting. You need a actual specific link to join. So join that or head over to the IGEL Community Twitter account and click on the very top pin article, click the link, and you'll be directly into that Slack channel. So those are the 3 locations we have today. I hope you guys can join. So on that note, let's get on with the show. Today, I'm so happy to have one of IGEL's newest partners, deviceTRUST, with us. deviceTRUST is the makers of an amazing contextual security solution that, when coupled with the IGEL OS, will allow you to define security based on the user's context. I will let them explain what this means in details, but it is truly a very exciting partnership, and we're seeing a lot of interest from our customers and, of course, IT itself. Really great technology. And they stand on their own 2 feet. So you don't require IGEL to work with deviceTRUST. And of course, these guys will explain that. So with no further ado, let's dive into it. I think you will like it. And do stick around to the very end as we have a few special surprises that we will share with you at the conclusion of this webinar. On that note, on with the show. Jens, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Thanks, Doug. So again, very warm welcome to everybody on the session. As Doug mentioned, clearly the main topic is to give you a technical overview about deviceTRUST, what we are doing and how we are doing it. But I really like to do a quick, very short introduction into what we mean by contextualizing IT, what's behind it, and how it guides into contextual security. So as Doug already mentioned, deviceTRUST is a German software vendor. We are based in Darmstadt, which is close by to Frankfurt, founded end of 2015. And what we are doing is, as I said, is contextualizing IT. Just a quick step into our alliances, and I just want to point out 2 on here. So one clearly is that deviceTRUST solution is completely Citrix ready certified for all Citrix products as XenApp, XenDesktop, and NetScaler, and also, and that's what the purpose of this today web sessions is, we have a strong alliance with IGEL. So what it means is that part of our software, of our client software, is already pre-installed, embedded within the IGEL OS, beginning with version 10.3.500. So our component is already implemented into the IGEL OS. Let's dive a bit into it, what we mean by contextualizing IT, or where it comes from. So when we look at the desktop virtualization market, then clearly we have users using their desktops, using the thin clients to access a virtual environment, to work with their applications, to access their data, to work with their resources they need to do for their day in, day out work. Clearly we have different type of management solutions which are used to apply policies, access rules. If a user logs on to this virtual environment, to his workspace, that he gets access to the applications, to the data he needs for his day in, day out work. And clearly to fulfill the existing requirements we have in the businesses from a security standpoint of view, from a compliance and regulatory standpoint of view. When we look a bit back, then this condition set, so what kind of applications and resources the user is able to access, is mainly based on the role of the user within the business. Means if a user is part of the HR department, then clearly he gets granted access to all resources for the HR department, like applications, data, and so on and so on. This all worked out very well in the past when users were working with these virtual environments in a, let's say, more static approach, sitting at their desk, sitting at their desktop PC or the thin client and working with these environments. What happened over the last couple of years and what kind of business are requiring at the moment, or since a couple of months and years already, is that people now start using different type of devices, even if they are managed, unmanaged, BYOD devices, as well as they're working from different locations, using different type of networks. And also what's quite common at the moment is that external people need to have access to virtual applications, to data within the corporate environment. The big challenge is that the role of the user to grant or deny access to specific resources isn't enough anymore to fulfill the existing set of requirements we have in place. So what we see out there is that businesses, IT departments need much more detailed information about the context. So where a user is accessing from, what kind of device he's using, to be able to grant or deny access to applications, as I said, based on the context. So when we look at, and that's what we mean by contextualizing IT, when we look at these security, compliance, and regulatory requirements, then it's mainly two areas which need to be considered. One clearly is, and that's the main topic for today, is contextual security. In summary, it means, is the device the user is using, is it secure in my terms, in my definition? Also, is the location the user is accessing from, is it a secure location in my definition? And last but not least, is the network the user is using a secure network that I can grant access to specific resources within the virtual environment? On the other hand side, we have what we call contextual user experience. What it means is, does the user have access to all the resources he needs in the context he's accessing at the moment? So easy example, does he have the right printer based on the location he's accessing the virtual environment? To fulfill all these requirements and to be able to apply contextual security and contextual user experience, and that's exactly what deviceTRUST is doing. We need more detailed information about the context when a user is accessing this environment. We have categorized this in 5 main categories, and clearly Sasha will go into more deep information on his live demonstration later on. So one clearly is information about the hardware the user is using to access the environment. So having detailed information about the device, to identify the device. Is it a corporate-owned device? Is it a non-corporate-owned device? Does it meet the hardware-specific requirements for accessing the virtual environment? Secondly, we have information about the software which is installed on the device. When we look at, for instance, in Windows devices, it's about the security components which are implemented on this device. Is there a firewall? Is there a virus scanner active? Is a important critical security patch missing on the device, which I need to know and decide if I grant access to the virtual environment or not. And then, of course, information about the network. Network means internal network. So if the user is within the corporate network, I need to know in which area of my corporate network he is at the moment. So is he in New York, or is he in Frankfurt, or in which location of my corporate network he is at the moment? And if he's accessing from outside the corporate network, what kind of network he is using. For instance, is he connected with a Wi-Fi network? Does the Wi-Fi network meet my requirements in security? So is it an encrypted Wi-Fi network connection, or is it an unsecured Wi-Fi connection? All these kind of information. Also very common in use is the location the user is based. So we're talking here about the geolocation, in which country the user is at the moment when he's accessing. Quite often used for compliance requirements to be able to grant access to applications which are only allowed if the user is within a specific country. And last but not least, detailed information about the user itself. So is there a user certificate installed on the device we need? Does the user have, or what kind of privileges the user has on its device when he's accessing the virtual environment? All these detailed information is something we as deviceTRUST collect and then give it into the existing management framework, so that the existing management framework is able to use this detailed context in combination with the role of the user and with our context. And also what we are adding is what we call deviceTRUST actions and triggers, is the ability to act on any kind of change of the context when the user is already connected, for instance, with a virtual environment. So if something happens or changes on the endpoint in the context, that we are able to act on this within the virtual session, and to fulfill our existing requirements as stated on the security compliance and the regulatory side. So that was already the short introduction. So I would like to hand over to Sasha to give you a technical overview, showing you some use cases, what you can achieve with it, and what the benefit is by using the context within the virtual environments.
Thank you, Jens. Just to check, Jens, with you, did you see my screen with deviceTRUST in the background?
Now I can see it, yes.
Perfect, great. So let's get started. So as Jens was saying, we are already part of the IGEL OS, and the first thing I like to do is to show you exactly that. So what we will see here, this is our IGEL UMS server. Sorry, that was the wrong button. So where we are, external, come back here. So this is our IGEL UMS server, and so what I'm using for my demo here is a UD5 and a UD Pocket later on, but deviceTRUST is, as I said, already part of the IGEL OS. For example, for RDP or for ICA, there are specific things where you can enable that. So under sessions, in this instance for RDP, RDP Global, mapping, device support, this is something where you just enable deviceTRUST channel. And that's the only thing you need to do on the IGEL side. The rest is managed by us. So we need also a piece of software on the Citrix server we are connecting to, but I explain that later on how that works. So the first use case I want to demonstrate to you, I'm using a UD Pocket. So let me shadow my UD Pocket to you, and maybe I can make this better. So we have a clean screen now. So here you see a UD Pocket. UD Pocket is plugged in any kind of hardware, is booted up. And what I'm using here in my first instance, in my first demo, so let me remove this away as well. So perfect. I want to demonstrate, first of all, conditional access with deviceTRUST, conditional access based on the context. So we want to control access to my Citrix environment based on the context. Important for the demo now, I will only use Citrix, but we work 100% the same for Microsoft RDP. And we're also working for published applications as well as for published desktops, but I'm using only published desktops because I want to demonstrate to you how we integrate, and that's far easier for me if I use a published desktop. So in this instance, the first thing we like to do is we want to control access, as I said, to our virtual environment based on the Wi-Fi network. This is what we want to do now. So I'm currently connected with my home office Wi-Fi called Chicken Home. And this network, if we can see here, this network is secure by WPA2. It's encrypted. So this is, by my definition, a secure Wi-Fi network. So what I'm using now, in my instance, I'm using directly storefront access. So let me sign in with a user. But again, for us, it's not important what kind of network you're using between the endpoint. Let me just put in something missing here. Letter HR. Use case 15. So for us, it doesn't care what kind of network connection is between the endpoint and your Citrix side. Is this through Netscaler? Is this through LAN? Is this through a traditional VPN? We don't care. So in this instance, what I'm doing, I'm starting now my Citrix application. In this instance is a published desktop. And when I'm signing in, at the point I'm signed in, we already know the full context of this endpoint. So we know exactly what kind of UD pocket we are having, where the UD pocket is based, is the Wi-Fi encrypted or is not encrypted, is it a corporate Wi-Fi or not. And this information we use to define access to your virtual environment is just, as we call it here, context. I will explain later how we generate this context and what that means in details, but what we're doing in our first demo is we're checking if the Wi-Fi we're using, if this is secured or not. And as we can see here, this is true, and therefore I can access my environment. What I'm doing now is I'm disconnecting my Citrix session, so leave the session running, and changing now on my endpoint, changing the wireless network. So let me do this. I'm using very popular in Germany. Telekom is an open Wi-Fi network available in a lot of locations. And what I'm doing now is I'm reconnecting now with this device. Maybe it's a different location now. What I want to use back to my already running session. The context gets called from the endpoint. The context is now available within the virtual session. Now we decided that the Wi-Fi is no longer secure because it's not encrypted. You don't get any access to your virtual environment anymore. And the message you see here is just the default. You can change that in different language. You can make a hint about the Wi-Fi needs to be encrypted or not. It's up to you what you want to write down. Behind the scenes, there's a timeout default of 2 minutes. And if the user is not reacting, then we disconnect the session in this instance. So let me reset this back to my secure Wi-Fi. And you will see I still get access to my environment. This is a very simple example about conditional access based on the Wi-Fi network I'm using. As you can see here, now I can log on and I can still work. This is just a simple example about conditional access with an IGEL thin client. The next use case I want to demonstrate to you, so let me sign out with this one, is a conditional access, but in this instance I want to demonstrate to you conditional access on a Windows platform. So as you know, IGEL is also having their Windows IoT device or Windows 10 IoT devices. So everything I show you now with Windows works 100% the same as well with IGEL. And in this instance, I want to demonstrate to you a conditional access based on the security state and the location the user is connecting from. So what I'm doing now is, as you can see here, this is my local device. And my local device, the firewall is in a great state. It's all green, it's all perfect, it's not bad. And what I'm doing now is I'm not using Citrix now. I want to show you also Amazon Workspaces, which we also support. And in this instance, let me put my credentials in. I'm signing in to my environment. And let me do this. Remember, security state is good, so it's all fine. And if I try to sign in into my Amazon Workspace, I will see a message. So currently the workspace is hosted in Ireland and I'm sitting in Frankfurt. And here you can see an example about controlling access to a virtual environment based on the location you're coming from. So as we say here, you cannot work from this location. You need to log on from Frankfurt. But we can even control that in combination with security as well. So this is something I want to show you now by moving to my Frankfurt office. And my Frankfurt office in this instance is my virtual Windows 7 environment to demonstrate it to you. And what I'm doing in this Windows 7 office called Frankfurt, I will disable one of the firewalls and do exactly the same kind of stuff again to sign into workspaces. And it is now my location, Frankfurt, but what you will see is I still can't log in because the security is not met to allow access to my Amazon Workspace. Amazon Workspace, this is something we will support with the next release, will be available mid of April, called deviceTRUST 18.1. And as you can see here now, I cannot log on because the security is not met. What's happened when the security state comes back as it should be, you can see I can work immediately with my workspace. So this is just another technology besides Citrix and native Microsoft RDS, which we will support as well. But important to mention, also if I'm signed in and something happened now during session runtime, so for example, some malicious activities is ongoing on my endpoint, or it is a user error, whatever, I'm changing the firewall, you can see we can immediately identify this context change on the endpoint and can act within the virtual session, and we can prevent access to your environment. If the security state comes back, we can release a session and you can still work on your virtual environment. So this is just an example, or an additional example about conditional access. So the first one was about the Wi-Fi network we used. The second one was about the security state and the corporate location. So we could combine all this information to define a real contextual access to your environment. The next use case I want to demonstrate to you is about, let me go back to my IGEL endpoint. In this instance, I want to demonstrate to you that we can also act on log on or reconnect, but we can also work within the session if something happened within the session. And this is something I like to demonstrate now to you. For that, I need to change my user, and I want to use a different user account for that. So this is now use case 12. In this use case, I want to demonstrate to you that we can make application availability dependent on the context. So what we're doing here is, again, remember, we are connected with a secure Wi-Fi network. So let me check in. I explain later on the technology, how that works and how we work with the architecture with this, how we get the context into the virtual environment. So as you see, I'm currently logged on again. We're checking again Wi-Fi security state, but in this instance, we are not controlling access to the virtual environment. In this instance, we're controlling access to applications. So what we have done here is we have our supercritical business application. In this instance, it's just Notepad++, but it could be any application you want to control based on context. And what I'm doing now is, because the policy we used is, if the Wi-Fi is secured, as we can see here, the user is allowed to use this business application. If the Wi-Fi is not secure anymore, you're not allowed to run this application. And this is something I want to demonstrate to you. So let me disconnect again. Could also log off and can do a fresh log on. Changing the Wi-Fi now on the endpoint to my open Wi-Fi and re-sign in or reconnect to my virtual environment. In this instance, what's happened now, we identify now, oh, this is not a secure Wi-Fi by our definition anymore, and therefore we control the policy which controls access to this business application. So if we check this here, you see now the Wi-Fi is not secure anymore, and if I try to start this application, it's impossible to start this application again. And the technology we're using to control this kind of application access is we're using Microsoft AppLocker. I think you guys are aware about Microsoft AppLocker as part of each server operating system. And the AppLocker by design can be configured by user group memberships on the logon. We have a technology which enables us to fully dynamically control the AppLocker based on the context. That even works if the application was executed and, for example, so it's a classic use case beside Wi-Fi is also a user executes an application from inside the corporate network, disconnects the session and reconnects from a different location. You want to prevent access to this application. This also works with deviceTRUST. I want to demonstrate that to you as well. So what I'm doing, I'm going back to my Wi-Fi settings and reset that to my corporate Wi-Fi or to a Wi-Fi network which is encrypted. Let me sign in again. And then you will see I'm allowed to run this application as you have seen before. This is a part of our technology here, connecting to. I will explain that later on, what that is in detail and how that works and what we're doing at that point. So let me show you this second part of that use case if I let the application running. So 1 second. So what I'm doing now is I leave the application running. I'm disconnecting now and go back to my unsecure Wi-Fi, so we can even control that scenario and can close down the application as well. So 1 second. And the Wi-Fi is just an example. We can control application availability to anything. We can make it based on the location. We can make it based on the IGEL device you're using. We can make it on the hardware you're using. We can even make it dependent on the geolocation you're using, network, etc. What you see here now is a message box to the user. This is not normally 10 seconds. It's a bit too short. So we can control that. You can control the content here, what you want to display. The application gets closed down. And if the users try to execute this application again, it's not possible. This use case was purely about App Locker, but we can also use Absence, Application Manager, now Ivanti Application Controller, or any other technology which is in place. The context, when we talk about context, this is exactly an extract from context we're looking for, we're using in the customer scenario. So this was the one we use all the time now, but we are, as you can see, there's different things like how the user is accessing my environment, from what corporate location the user is coming from, country, as Jens was saying. Is this a managed device or is this an unmanaged device? Is a device secure, etc. And all this context gets logically combined based on context properties. So what we're doing, we deliver all these context properties into the virtual environment on log on reconnect, and we make sure it's always up to date during session runtime. And what you can see here now, and this is just one place where you can consume it, is a registry, lots of information starting with device. And everything here which starts with device represents my endpoint. So as you can see, there are hardware-related information. You can go really down to the model where the UD Pocket is plugged in. We have all the display settings, and here a very interesting one is the DPI setting. So we can automatically set the right DPI settings into the Citrix environment, which are dependent on the endpoint, and this fully dynamically without any user interaction. We have information about the input methods. We have the geolocation. And as you can see here, we can go down really to the building number. But for sure, we have in most of the scenarios, customers want to know the country code. Maybe they want to know the state and the town, and that's it. We can do this because we can disable things we're not looking for. I'll show you later on. Then we have the device name. We have all network information here. I jump to the Wi-Fi one. This is a Wi-Fi network I'm currently using, and you see I have all information about the endpoint, about the network I'm using, including gateway MAC address. This is a very nice thing to identify corporate locations. We have all the Wi-Fi information, like if the Wi-Fi is secured or not. You can see it's open, what SSID are you using, etc. And this is what we call context properties. And those are all context properties, as you can see, representing my IGEL endpoint currently connected to my environment. On a Windows platform, we have some more information I will show you later on. And it ends up with who is information, which is the internet service provider I'm using for my current location. We have the same information. We can have the same information about the Citrix server itself as well, but we have configured or disabled some of the information, so everything starts with host, represents my Citrix environment. The interesting piece here is the bandwidth and the latency is currently used for my session. So if this is changing, we can act on that. So if the latency goes up to 100 or 800 milliseconds, 80 milliseconds, so we can act on that by notifying the user. This is what we call context properties, and those context properties are used logically combined to define the context I'm looking for, and based on the context, we can act within the virtual world, as you have seen with App Locker, but we can do also the same to control access to your virtual environment, and we don't care how the session gets established, through Netscaler, through LAN, through traditional VPN solution. This all doesn't count. We make the context available, one, in the registry. We can make it available in the environment variables. We can make it available as well in command line with a command line utility. So it's up to you how you want to consume this context. But we go even further. So, for example, this is my first Citrix session I'm connected to, and what I'm doing now, I'm starting now a double hub. So this is also a very traditional use case within our customer. So what I'm doing now from the first Citrix session, I start now an additional published application or published desktop. So what I've done here, I used now an additional published desktop to show you the integration. And in this second, or we call this double hop environment, I also have all information about the endpoint itself as well. So if I look deeper into the properties, you can see exactly the same information you saw in the first session. The only things we added to the second, there's a double hop, is the information about the first hop. So I know exactly where this user was coming from. So this is what we call double hop support, which we can also support the context information. So let's sign out here. Another use case, let me jump out of that. Now we need now a different device. So we need now the UD5. Let's shadow this device. The next use case I want to show you is a very traditional one. It's about corporate locations you're coming from to assign network printers and shares, etc., and applications. In this instance, what I'm using, my UDC is my UT5 is connected here to my local area network, and I'm signing in now. And based on my corporate office now, which is defined in this instance by network properties and geolocation information we're combining together, we can define in what corporate office you're using. So let's sign in. And if we are signed in, we will see based on the context what corporate location we are using. So come on. Something all right. Okay, let's quickly log off and log on again. That should work. Something is not right. Okay, let's go over to the Windows side to show you that first, and then going back to the IGEL. So what we have here, this is now again my Frankfurt location, and what I want to demonstrate in this one, I'm connecting now to my Citrix environment. What we use, as I said before, we're checking a lot of information, defining the corporate location you're coming from, and in this instance you get all the resources connected which belongs to your environment. Well, it looks like the server is hanging. Interesting. This is, yes, you see, guys, this is live. So we're showing everything live. And I need to see shortly what's wrong with the Citrix server. It looks like it's okay. Something is wrong. Let me try again. Let me see. Now it's all fine. So it should work. So we should sign in now. Oh, that looks better. That looks how it should be. So, okay. So let's go into this. And now something is wrong. That's interesting. We tried it a couple of times. We're using this demo environment all the time. But it looks like it's currently do not want to do this. So 1 second, let me check another user. Let's go back to here. This all signed in should. So just have on the other side, I see the server, but it's not reporting any issues. It's interesting. Now it's working. Maybe there was some updates or something there. Let's see. Okay, so what I wanted to demonstrate to you was the information about the corporate office we're using, and based on the corporate office information, we map the right corporate resources. In this instance, by our definition, this is my current location, is our corporate office Darmstadt, and based on that, I should get my my resources, but not with this use case. So let me try that here again. Sorry guys for that. Let me try that again. So I'm looking for that server, but it looks all okay. So hopefully this is working now for this use case. Come on. Come on. Something is wrong. So sorry guys, I need to, I could not show you that. No idea what's wrong with this user at the moment. So let's go back. I need to jump, I need to leave that use case, but I think you believe in we can assign corporate resources based on your corporate location you're coming from. By the way, we have all this kind of videos which I want to or all the use case I want to demonstrate to you is part of our website. So if you go to deviceTRUST.com product, you see first of all a lot of information about the technical benefits, and we show you also what kind of context properties we are collecting from the endpoint and we are able to demonstrate. And if you open that, is a little bit of an explanation. And on the end, you see all the videos to all these different use cases I've already showed you, or I want to show you, including the IGEL use case we see here, also how we integrate with Citrix WEM as an example. So let's go back. Still a black screen, so yeah, I could not show you this use case. So let's go back to my demo use case, and I want to show you a little bit the Windows side. So let's go back to here. So with this use case, I just want to show you the additional properties we can collect on the Windows side. So as you can see here, we have more information like the Action Center information about the firewall, antivirus information we can get. We can also check certificates are installed on the endpoint to identify if this is a corporate managed device or not. We will also implement that on the IGEL side on the next release. So we can check certificates. We have information about the hardware, including is this a mobile device, which we also add to IGEL soon. We have logical disk and map drives information. This is to, for example, to do the Citrix client drive policy based on what kind of network drives are available to optimize them that, for example, corporate network shares are not get reconnected into the virtual environment because it's easier to connect them straight from within the virtual environment. We have policy information, power information. We have all kind of printer information. We have information about the remoting client, how the remoting client is accessing my virtual environment. We have screensaver information, which I want to show you a bit more in detail in the next use case, and what kind of user we have, how is the user authenticated, what kind of rights the user has, etc. And also on the Windows side and also on the IGEL Windows 10 IoT build, we have information about the Windows Defender. We have firewall information with inbound and outbound rules, and we have Windows Update information if any critical Windows update is missing. Well, this is just a little bit of an overview about what we're doing on the Windows side. So let's go back now to the architecture, how we're doing all this kind of stuff. And that's also quite important to understand because it's very simple. So what we are doing is, as you can see here, this is our architecture diagram for Windows endpoints and IGEL endpoints. So is this in the center? This is my XenApp machine. This is my Citrix server, my XenApp server, my Amazon workspace, whatever you're using here. And on this side, we need to install a little piece of software called the deviceTRUST host. The deviceTRUST host is nothing else as an MSI package. It needs to be installed. We don't need any additional infrastructure. That's very important. So you don't need to install a SQL database or a web service or something to use deviceTRUST. The only thing you need to install here is the deviceTRUST host. Whatever the deviceTRUST host or what deviceTRUST should do, is defined by group policy. I won't show you later. And whatever deviceTRUST is doing is writing that into the event log, because our customers telling us, please don't create your own reporting. We already have reporting in place, so please provide the information into the Microsoft event log, for example. On the client side, as we discussed already with IGEL OS, there's a piece of software running. The importance here is you don't need to manage this deviceTRUST client. The deviceTRUST client just needs to be installed. And on the Windows side, it's a one-click installer. Then we can do an auto update on that. On the IGEL side, is as I showed you before, is just to enable deviceTRUST. That's it. The magic starts when the deviceTRUST client talks to the deviceTRUST host. So, however, the ICA session in our instance gets established through Netscaler, through LAN, through VPN, whatever, the client starts to talk to the host. And they're exchanging information like what kind of client version you have on Windows, for example. We can push you to upgrade. And if this is all done, then the deviceTRUST host could tell the client, look what, I only want to get this 20 informations from you. Then the host sends down a little config to the client. The client reads this config and send over the information you're looking for. This is, I want to demonstrate to you quickly how easy that is. So 1 second, I'm move now away from that screen and show you the Citrix server I'm connected to. So this is the Citrix server I'm always connected to in my demo environment. And as part of the configuration we do with group policy, you can do this with group policy. As I said, you can do it with local policy. In this instance, I'm using a local policy. I'm not going through all the different settings here. The only thing I want to demonstrate to you how simple it is on a central point to disable certain properties you're not looking for. So I'm going to the device filter. And for example, if I'm looking for geolocation, I could easily decide I don't want to get any geolocation information, then I just disable that. Or I can be very selective and just going into that and say, hey, I'm only interested in the country code in the state and maybe in the town. And that's the only information I want. And then deviceTRUST on the endpoint will only send this information to the host. And that's important to understand, though. There's no need for you to manually configure the deviceTRUST client. Everything you do here on a central point. And then the deviceTRUST client will pick up this configuration on the log-on or on the reconnect, read the configuration, and just send the information you're looking for. That's the magic behind that. On the other side, we are writing everything we do, we write into the event log. So I'm not looking for all the different events we have here, but you can see there's lots of events. 101 is just a simple event which tells the user has been signed in, and you can easily see what kind of context information was available within the session. We can even control that view. So for example, if you want to enable geolocation information within the session to control access, but you don't want to report on that, this might be a bit of a German thing, you can do this. Or we can also blacklist some information out of the event. So this is, let's say, this is the architecture of deviceTRUST. Simple, straightforward, no infrastructure required. You need to enable deviceTRUST on the client side, and you need to have deviceTRUST on the host side, and that's it, nothing more. So hopefully my demo goes back now. So let me try that again, because there's one or two little use cases I want to demonstrate to you as well. So hopefully this is working now. So let's try that again. Oh, this stays here. Okay, that's definitely something wrong. I need to look at that later on. So let's go back to my last use case I want to demonstrate to you. Let me sign out. And I use a different user account. This is now use case 13. This use case, it's about a secure screensaver. So let me try to sign in to check if this is working. And then I can demonstrate it to you. Hopefully, let me sign in. So this is this connecting to. It's normally the point where the client talks to the host exchange information with the client gets all this information and send it over to the virtual environment. So, but it looks like this is working. Perfect. Great. So in this instance, I want to demonstrate to you another very important use case, and this has to do with screensaver settings. So we have requirements from the customers to say, if there's a secure screensaver on the endpoint configured, which meets my requirements, I don't need to add an additional screensaver into the Citrix world. It's not really good for the user experience. And this is what I want to demonstrate to you. So what I'm doing now, I'm going to my Windows 10 device, go to the lock screen settings, and just want to show those settings to you. And this is what's defined on my endpoint. This could be defined by group policies. It could be, in this instance, a bring your own, where the user have his own rights to define that. And when I look into the virtual environment, we're looking up for a context information called secure screensaver, which is true. By the way, this is all protected. So the user cannot modify that and could not take ownership. So this is all secured. But let's go into the screensaver settings. So 1 second. This is what we call the screensaver settings. So as you can see here, we have, this is the information we're collecting from the endpoint. So we know exactly if there's a screensaver, what kind of screensaver is used, if this is secure, and what it means is it's protected by a password. If the timeout kicks in, then the timeout is 15 minutes, as you can see here. So this meets my requirements as a customer, and therefore I have dynamically disabled the screensaver in the Citrix world. So what I'm doing to demonstrate that we also work on a change, I change that now on the endpoint. You will see that this change is automatically updated within the virtual world. Screensaver is not secure anymore. We have updated the screensaver, and if I go out now and wait 5 seconds, you will see that the screensaver gets enabled within the virtual world, and it kicks in with a password protection. This is not really a use case or timeout which is for production environments because it's just 5 seconds, but it should demonstrate to you that we can set group policies, or we can set policies within the virtual world fully dynamically and dependent on the context. So if you see now, screensaver is back to true, so it's a secure screensaver. So if I check the properties for that, you will see it's back to true. And if I go out now and wait 5 seconds, nothing happened anymore. So we have disabled the screensaver in that instance because the endpoint meets my requirements. Well, this is what I want to show you as the last use case. The one I want to show you to you, which was not working, I have a little video and I can show it quickly to you. 1 second, and then we can also go through this use case video as well. Videos. Technical, and I can show you that with Citrix WEM. It's just another technology we are supporting, and I just guide you through a little bit through this demo. So what we're doing is this traditional log on. So I pause here for a moment, just to remind you guys, this is our technology. This connecting to, this is exactly when the client talks to the host, exchanging all the information. By the way, you can also rename that. This is just the default we have. So let's continue with that. And then what we're doing based on the network properties, we define a corporate location, and Citrix WEM is using this context information to apply the right policy set within the virtual world. And this is what we're doing. We're using this information called Corporate Office Darmstadt. And based on that information, Citrix WEM in this instance is connecting resources within the session. So one is a network share for the location, and the other one is the default printer for the location the user is coming from. In this instance is Darmstadt. So what I'm doing now, I'm signing off or signing out for that. I'm just forward this video a little bit. And this is now my Windows 7 endpoint, now with NetScaler logon, which is by our demo definition, our Frankfurt office. So I'll hurry up a little bit here. And then you can see here, Citrix is again using this information, applying the right policies, and what we're using here is the information that the corporate office is now Frankfurt, is no longer Darmstadt. This also works on a reconnect and disconnect, but as you can see here, now it's Frankfurt the share, and the default printer is now configured back to my Frankfurt printer because the corporate location is different. If the corporate location not only needs to be a city or something, we also have customers having large buildings and large parks, business parks, and they want to know exactly where you are, like hospitals, for example. So we can also do this based on floors or based on the Wi-Fi access point you are connected to. If you roam with your device with different Wi-Fi access points, we could also work on that side. So that was my my last demo, which I would like to show you in live, but I'm sorry for that, but you've seen what I want to show you. Last but not least, on our website, so if we go back to our website, you have all again these videos. You see all the different context information we provide, and you also have access to our deviceTRUST context properties. So it will explain to you exactly what kind of properties you have on what kind of platform, including IGEL. And this is the last thing I want to tell you. So you can, if you want to know more about what kind of information we are able to deliver, this is what you can see here. So in this instance, I would say I'm giving back to Jens for the wrap up. And if you guys have any technical questions, just raise it and we can go through. So back to you, Jens, please.
Hey, Sasha, I do have one quick question for you.
Okay.
And that is, I'll read it. It says, so with Citrix XenApp or XenDesktop, is the information read from the agent/client and then routed to the host inside the HDX
Correct.
protocol? Perfect.
Correct. Exactly. So we're using the virtual channels, no? In the, though, as we call it in the old days, though that's what we're doing. So we use the virtual channels, and therefore we don't care what is between the client and the Citrix side, because it's all transparent. Absolutely right. Any more questions, Doug?
That's what I have, guys. If you have any questions, please use the questions piece, and we'll get to those. But in the meantime, we'll turn it over to Jens because he has some neat stuff to share with you that I think you guys will quite like.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So thanks, Doug. Thanks, Sasha, for the demonstration. So hopefully, the idea was to show you how you can use the context deviceTRUST is providing into the virtual session with our actions and our triggers, how you can increase the security to come to a contextual security, be more flexible when the mobile workforce is accessing the virtual environment. One thing I really like to offer to you, or to wrap up with is what we've created is we have set up an IGEL Community NFR license. So if you go to our website, devicetrust.com/community, you can sign up for a 12-month NFR license, clearly only for test and demo environments, so no productive use of this license, but you can use this full feature license to test around it, play around it, to do demonstration on it. So can have access to that. Also, we offer you to support you with the implementation via web session, to build up, for instance, use cases you have in mind, use cases you want to fulfill with deviceTRUST. We are happy to support you with that. Just get in touch with us. And of course, you can sign up to our deviceTRUST community program, where you can get firsthand news updates around context awareness and about what's going on, new versions coming out. As Sasha mentioned, in April, there will be a new release where we add Amazon AWS support and much more. So you get firsthand updates on that. If you want to get in touch, here are our contact details, so you can contact me or you can contact Sasha. Here are our contact details. We are also happy to follow up with further web sessions, give you more details about it. And as I said, we can support you with implementation of the test environment and so on. So that was it from my side. I think we are on time, which is good. So the only thing I can say is many thanks for your time. Many thanks for watching our webinar, attending our webinar. Thanks to Sasha for doing the live demonstration, even if the backend system didn't want as we expected that. But I think that's normal, can happen. And many thanks to you, Doug, for hosting the session.
Hey, thank you guys so much for coming on and sharing the amazing stuff you guys are doing. It's just so simple, but yet so powerful. I truly love it. I actually wrote down a few questions myself, and as Sasha went through it, he literally answered each one of them. So that was quite impressive, but did not surprise me. Guys, listening, if are watching, if you enjoyed it, please let us know. Tweet about it if you would. Include at IGEL Community and of course at deviceTRUST. We definitely love that. And if you have any recommendations for future webinars that you would like us to do through the IGEL Community, please let me know. brown@igel.com or hit me up on Slack. Definitely let me know, because that would be absolutely great. The community is for by the techies for the techies. So it's if you guys have any recommendations, wishes, desires whatsoever, please let me know. On that note, I would also, these guys are giving you guys, free NFRs, and I'd like to extend that to a free UD Pocket. So if you do not already have the IGEL UD Pocket, please let me know, and I will make sure you get one. So just send me an email, brown@igel.com, with your address. If you're in Europe or anywhere outside the US, you have to add your phone number because we need that for shipping purposes. But send me an email and I'll make sure you get one of those bad boys. It's a really amazing device and what have you. I already mentioned to join the IGEL community at igelcommunity.com, but also I want to share with you, if you don't know, we put together a very nice how-to document. So if you're new to IGEL, it'll get you up and running quite quick. So I think about within an hour you have the entire platform up and running and with no questions asked. So it's I'm quite proud of that little piece of work. So I would love to know I'd love to share it with you guys. And if you have any suggestions, please let us know. There's no other questions. That's Sasha, you did such a good job. You answered everybody's question. So that's always a good thing. We're 2 minutes to the top of the hour. If there's any questions whatsoever, you need to ask right now. If not, then we'll go ahead and call this a webinar. So guys, thank you.
I think it's just one comment. Is also, Doug, you guys, if you have any questions, just write me an email or contact me on LinkedIn or contact Jens. So I'm really happy to follow up with you on any kind of questions, or if you want to trial it, I will assist you, as Jens was saying. Thank you also from my side. Over to Doug again. Sorry, Doug.
No, that's perfect. I was going to give you guys the last word. So, yeah, with no further ado, let's just call this a webinar. I will make sure you guys all get the recorded version, and please share it with a friend, tweet about it, and try it. That's, as I always say, try it for yourself. So with no further ado, let's just say thank you very much. And this was in my opinion, a very successful first IGEL community webinar. So Sasha, Jens, thank you so much for doing this with us.
Thank you also from my side, and thank you guys for listening. Thank you.
Okie dokie. That's a wrap, folks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.